Okay, our next speaker is Colonel Kliethermes, and Ken is the commander of the Aviation Center Logistics Command. So obviously has used to be about 25% of the aircraft, I think, that the Army has. So responsible for maintaining the huge fleet down there. So Ken, we look forward to hearing your comments.
So good morning. It's good to be here at Corpus Christi. Spent a lot of time at Fort Rucker, probably a little too much there. I'd like to get back down here a little bit more and see how you guys do your operations here, but we do appreciate the invite. For those of you who don't know ACLC, it's a very unique organization, Aviation Center Logistics Command, and I'm the commander, so it's very unique. I've been there for about 14 months. And I still don't know exactly everything that we do. It's an amazing organization. The acronyms keep flowing, as you guys know. Every year, every day, there's another one out there. I'm like, what does that stand for? Because when you have contractors that you manage in a whole different language, and I've had to learn that, and I've not gotten to the level that I need to be, but I still have another 10 months, so hopefully I'll get there. So first of all, good morning. I do work for General Richardson. He is my boss, but I have a second boss, General Lundy, who I get calls from every so often, and most of the time they're good calls, but sometimes they're not good calls, which is part of our job here. But I have two great bosses, really enjoy my job. I'm very honored to serve as ACLC commander, and I'm honored to speak here with you guys today, and I appreciate the time. I also wanted to recognize the Jones and Luce families for what they've done for our organizations here. I know they're not here right now, but if you're out there, I appreciate what you've done. It definitely has helped our organization as well. General Sinclair, distinguished guests, thanks again. Appreciate you guys having me up here to talk a little bit, and thanks for your service as well. I know you guys have done your hard work and labor throughout the year, so thank you, sir. Garner, CCAD team, thanks again for the invite. We appreciate it. And thanks for the great tour that you guys gave us a couple months ago. Toll and I, my deputy, it was fantastic to see your operation. If any of you haven't seen that, I don't mean to give you more work, Garner, but it's fantastic. It really does give you an idea, a scope of what happens here. Until you walk the ground, it's very difficult to understand that. Unfortunately, I don't have a cool video like Garner does, but I can tell you if I did have one, it would be a lot better than his because that's the way we roll, all right? And then if Letterkenny had one, I would have one better than theirs as well because there are only 3 commanders in AMCOM there, and we are very competitive. I'm just joking. We do a great job of working things out. You know, as I looked at this, I saw the key to aviation readiness. And I was like, wow, what is the key to aviation readiness? I have no idea. If I had it, I wish I could just give it to you. But I believe it is about the people, and we have a great group down there at Fort Rucker. I'm telling you, these guys are subject matter experts in their field. They are way smarter than I am in these fields. And if you guys need any assistance, you want to ask someone about how things operate, whether it's logistics, whether it's with the PM, whether it's you know, parts, whether it's maintenance test flights, give us a call. We've got an SME down there just like you have up here, or down here, I guess. We're kind of down in both places. Okay, so appreciate the invite. Am I turning slides or you guys turning slides? All right, which one do I use? Green? There we go. Okay, so a little agenda here. We're going to hit a couple things. Hopefully I'm going to be able to show you the scope and the magnitude of what ACLC does down there on a daily basis and kind of who we are. The equation, I'm going to talk about what our daily routine is because I think it's impressive. Hopefully you will as well, and you'll be able to get something from it and the requirements that we have to go through every day. We'll talk a little bit about the fleet update. I'm not going to get too specific into that because that's a whole nother brief, but I'll hit some highlights. Kind of the numbers we have today and then where we're heading. Smart maintenance. I'm just going to talk about a couple things there that impacts the Army. and eventually gets into the IETM. Maybe something that we do at Rucker that helps Army Aviation maintenance. And so I'll talk through that a little bit. You guys are already doing it. And then ACLC assistance. You know, how can we help? And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit because I think based off of our op tempo and our demand that we put on the aircraft, that there's some things out there that we can share with you guys. And if we get that communication, similar to what Mr. Kennedy and those people are talking about, then we'll have a better product at the end. Okay. So, like I said, quickly on our mission vision here. You can see there, aviation sustainment, logistics, and material. We work for TRADOC. My boss is AMCOM, but we take care of TRADOC, okay? We got to provide aircraft. Every day we got to make sure they got enough aircraft to fly. That's what it's all about down there. It's about getting that aircraft out there. So obviously our vision has got to be something like that. We got to provide a quality FMC aircraft every mission and every time, and that's what we strive to do for. We don't do it all the time, but we strive to do that. Some of our tasks there, just to highlight. You know, like I said, I already talked about the enable. We got to do that. Maintenance, contract, surveillance. A lot of people think that maintenance, contract, surveillance is us walking around with a clipboard with a big, long quality assurance checklist. Well, it is that to some extent, but it's more than that. ACLC is about management. So we manage the large programs. We manage all those parts that come through there. We manage all those facilities. We manage that. We provide oversight. We work directly with USACE and AMCOM. When that flight hour program changes like this all the time, which it does, guess who has to come up with the next COA to figure out what the cost is going to be? How many maintenance man hours is that going to take? All those type of things. That's ACLC. That's what we do. So our number one priority is to provide safe aircraft to USACE. That is our number one priority, safe aircraft. How we get there, that's a long story. When we do the quality inspections, you guys know what an arms inspection is. You guys have been around the Army a while. You know when you call in the arms team, they come and they inspect you. I can tell you that the contractor down there gets the equivalent of an arms inspection about monthly. And it's very detailed, and it goes over everything from GSE to AGSE to all that stuff, and that's what the quality oversight does. So we provide that for them. Now, a lot of people say, well, is quality oversight, is it really that important? You know, couldn't you just have the contractor do all that stuff and report? You could. We've tried that. It didn't work. So that's why we have quality oversight, and that's why we have our job here. But I believe that oversight has improved operational readiness by a significant amount. I mean, before we got there, it was in the 40s, 40%. We were hovering around, you know, mission capability, mission rates up there, mission performance in the 70s, which is good. That's where we want to keep it, okay? It also has controlled cost escalation. Guess who manages all those costs that come through? And every time there's a contract, there's a new aircraft comes in, who negotiates that with a contract? Well, it's ACLC. ACLC, the KO. We all get involved and we say, this is what we think you'll need. Here's maybe what you think you need, but here's what we know that you need to manage this system. So we got to have subject matter experts down there, and we do, and our team does a great job. The other thing is, I talked about a little bit, is how do you provide safe aircraft? Well, you got to have oversight. You know, I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys. Let's see, one of them turns 9 tomorrow. And so I have 2 boys, Grant and Harrison, 2 are my young boys, and I have my daughter who's 14. And I know throughout their entire career and throughout their entire life, I've had to oversee them. Now, they're good, you know, when I'm not around because I've, you know, provided them with the right direction, but they still need that oversight. It keeps everyone honest, and I think it does really reduce cost escalation. Oops. Okay, so our equation chart, this is our money chart as we call it. As you see there in the middle, flight training. That's what it's all about. We've got to provide aircraft, flight training aircraft. Okay, So up there, the equation personnel, I've actually got about 51 military people. And within AMCOM, that's the largest sum of military people in one organization. We've got about, I think we're at 78 DACs right now. We're actually at about 129. We're short some people. We haven't been able to hire. We're working on those things. AMCOM is working through that through their budget. We do have some people that are matrix. We have DLA. Obviously, you got a big organization, orders a lot of parts. You got to have somebody in there. DLA. We got AMCOM, environmental people that are part of our system there. And also we've got engineers, because with that many aircraft and that many different types of fleets, you got to have engineers on the ground. So our daily op tempo, look at that. We launch over 500 missions, and I'm not trying to make this sound any bigger than what it is. I'm just trying to put something in perspective so you can understand what goes on out there every day. 500 missions from 6 separate airfields. So it would be nice if they were all in one location, but they're not, which means that we've got to have people in every one of those airfields, and they've got to be trained, and they've got to run 3 shifts because we fly all the time. So those guys are out there working hard. We also run the Molinelli, the FARP, so they're out there. Our 64s are out there hovering for 35, 45 minutes in the Molinelli, and that puts extra stress on that airframe as they're hovering out there. They do that stuff quite a bit. We order $2 million, approximately $2 million of parts a day. Now, to some of these organizations here, that may not seem like a lot, but that's quite a bit of money to spend every day. We do a lot of parts ordering. Perform over 60 maintenance test flights a day. And guess when we do the test flights? Well, we do them at night. Because we can't afford to do them during the day because that's when they need the aircraft. So we have to be very efficient at night. So our guys are doing all these things at night. Guess when they're doing the PMDs? At night, under the lights, under big lights and stuff like that. So that's how we have to get the mission done, because the flight hour program, although the hours have changed for war hours, right? They've been reduced, but Fort Rucker's hours are staying the same. And oh, by the way, they may be increasing. So we have to continue to provide those aircraft out there every day. And we complete the equivalent of 7 phase inspections a day that roll out there. So a lot of great maintenance goes on there. Our oversight, I talked about the quality assurance surveillance program. That's what we do. We got people that are specialized in that, as well as our GFR, who's the aviation program training manager there, who oversees all of that type of stuff. Customer support, you can see our hours there. As General Sinclair kind of alluded to, that's last year's hours. So FY14, 224,000, which is roughly a quarter of the entire Army's flight hours that we produce out there at Fort Rucker. And you can see down there at the chart where we're heading. You know, 15 is going to slope off just a little bit, but it's still upwards of the 200,000+ hours, which is significant. Over to the right, the facilities. Like I said, a lot of people think that ACLC just oversees the aircraft and the contract and those other things, but we have a lot of facilities there. 1.3 million square feet and 88, we're actually up to 91 buildings now. So you guys know the deal. Anytime there's something goes on there's a renovation required for a new building, because OSHA comes in, you guys know all that. They come in, they say, hey, your workspace here is not good. We need to change this. So that's ACLC. Once again, we go back to the drawing board, we go back to the engineers, we say, design something here that works for us. And so that's what we do, and then we submit it up. And then, of course, we don't have a budget, so we try to get people, we try to get USACE, TRADOC, and everyone else to pay our budget, because we don't have one. So we're always asking for money, which is good and bad. So there you can see the aircraft, 589 total aircraft. That's a lot of aircraft, but the uniqueness is there are 14 different fleets. It would be nice if they were all one. Now, I know that's the goal, is to move to 4 fleets, you know, so we're peer. We got CH, we got AH, we got UH, and we got the 72 there eventually. So we're peer. That'll make our job a lot easier. But right now, we've got a very unstable fleet. We got aircraft coming in. So over the next 4 years within ARI, three to 4 years, we're going to move and divest over 400 aircraft out of Fort Rucker. And guess who gets involved in that? That's ACLC, and manages that with the PMs. So we're working with your PMs. We're working with all those people saying, hey, here's what's best for Fort Rucker. We can't afford to get rid of all these aircraft right now, but we can afford to get rid of these, okay? And so we work that out. We work those deals. But a lot of aircraft you can see there, and there's some numbers there. I'll go through that here in just a minute. The one thing I like to highlight, because when I got there, it was hard for me to understand how big ACLC was. I just couldn't understand because I was used to green suit stuff. So I started doing some math, and I was like, okay, we have equivalent of 5 brigades worth of aircraft. Okay, so we have 5 brigades worth of aircraft. But we really have 1 brigade's worth of maintainers when you look at it. So there has to be efficiencies there. And you guys do this every day in your business. You learn efficiencies, you build up on those. So you have 5 brigades of aircraft with 1 brigade's worth of maintainers working on those aircraft. There has to be efficiencies, and I think that's where ACLC comes in. We provide that efficiency, we manage those programs, and we oversee them so we can make sure that the Army is getting what they need, Army Aviation. I've gone through, this is like our numbers chart here, but we manage $3.9 billion worth of government equipment. So all that equipment that's issued to the contractor, guess who manages that? It's all ACLC, that's government issue equipment. The one thing I found unique with Rucker here is on an annual basis, we recover by air 500 aircraft a year. And we recover by ground 600 aircraft per year. Those are just alarming numbers. And a lot of that's due to just Rucker. Because we all know this, and Garner and I have talked about this before. If you're in a real unit and you got a transducer that says something's a little bit warm, what are you going to do? You're going to fly it back to home base, right? Well, at Rucker, you got a training student in there. So what do you have to do? You have to land immediately. You can't fly it anymore. If the emergency procedure is land as soon as possible, it's land as soon as possible, it's land now. And so that requires a recovery all the time. So our workload is constant, okay? And those maintenance test pilots who work mainly at night are getting they're earning their money. They're earning it every day. You guys talked about safeties of flights, ASAMs, and those types of things. You know, annually there are about 130 of them that come out, okay, within all the fleets that we have here, because we have so many different fleets. There might be 160. I counted 160, but I was corrected at one point, it says only 130. So 130, whatever the number is, that's what we have to manage as well. And those come through, and so our tech reps are looking at those, making sure we got servos, making sure we got parts and people moving that around, and so they manage that to the T. The one thing that I'm going to highlight at the very end of my presentation here is what we can do for you. So Fort Rucker, we fly aircraft a lot, like put a lot of hours on them, okay? But the one thing that we do more than anything is we beat them up, okay? And I don't mean to say this in a bad text or anything like that, but I kind of call them our rental car fleet. They're not that way, but what do we do with them? Well, we put students in them. What do the students do? They open that door how many times a day? Because there's more students going in it like 5 or 6 times a day. So they open that door. So that latch gets turned every time, right? That hinge gets used. That door gets slammed. Okay, and guess what they do on their landings and stuff? Well, they're not quite as efficient as some of us in here we think we are. So they land. They hit a little hard. Okay, so where do we have problems with? Tail wheels, landing gear. Engines, we hit the aircraft harder. We do those things. We abuse the aircraft, and not in a bad way. We use them. We use them very, very well, and they're being used. You know, I drive by Hooper Airfield there, which is out towards Ozark, and that's where I did my flight training in the 64, the Apache, many, many years ago. And I remember my first flight in the bag. So in the bag, you know, they make it feel like it's dark, so they put this thing inside the cockpit so you can't see, right? So it feels like you're flying at nighttime because you got to learn how to fly that NVS system, that monocular stuff. So you're working there at Hooper, and I'll never forget my first landing because everybody, guess where your students are sitting? They're out there on those bleachers watching you do your first landing. And I'll never forget, I came in there, and Apache's kind of nose high, tail low landing, and I hit that tail landing gear, and it hit, and it bounced up and down for several times. And I thought, wow, that was pretty smooth, you know. And then when I got out of the aircraft, all of my peers were there saying, holy cow, we're glad you're alive. We saw that aircraft land. That was a terrible landing. I was like, it didn't feel that bad. But my point is, we put a demand on those aircraft. Those aircraft are being used, okay? They turn every hour. You know, not every hour, but every 3 or 4 hours, you're putting a new student in there who's beating them up. And I think that's where we can help you guys at is some of the things the stress that we put on that aircraft. We can share those things. The last thing on this slide here is I've got in the very bottom there, service contracts. So we also have a COR a contracting officer representative there at Benning who manages that contract there with a quality assurance person. And what do? Well, they've got 7 60s there that do the Ranger training, right? And they've got 5 medevac aircraft that are being stood up right now. So we manage that contract as well. We provide oversight for them and make sure that they've got everything that they need. So that's my busy slide. Sorry, that one takes forever. Let me get a drink of water here. So on this one here, did I miss a slide? Sorry. Oh, that's it. Okay. As you guys know, ARI is bigger than the Lakota. We all know that. It's age 64 echoes. It's everything. And so what I wanted to show you here is just kind of what we're doing as far as the UH-72, give you an update on that. We have picked up the entire UH-72 support as of 1 December. AFS, the contractor there, will have that requirement. So that's the big takeaway from here. You can see there on the left where it says AFS Support Aircraft Qualification Instructor Pilot Training, Cairns. That's a class that's going on right now that we are supporting. That's our first class that AFS is actually producing the aircraft and maintaining the aircraft. It was Sikorsky underneath that old contract. And then the other thing I want to highlight here is it's that green line where it says AFS aircraft. So the Army was pretty smart, USACE, TRADOC, and everyone else, in my opinion, when they decided to bring this new aircraft online, the UH-72, to replace the TH-67. They did it incrementally, and that helped us out as maintainers. So we can get used to the aircraft, we can understand what the issues are, what the problems are, and we can adapt. So you see those numbers there. They increase up to 123 if you follow that green line across by FY17. So you can see our TH-67's been the workhorse there and will continue to be for a very long time, for another 3 to 4 years, okay? So we're not getting rid of the TH-67. And then the only reason I bring this out is because this is something as a maintainer I need to look at. I need to manage these numbers here. So we're going from 162 to 125 on the TH-67. And 43, which we currently have, we actually at AFS, I think we got 31 now that we're maintaining, to 123 by FY17. So those are just some numbers there. I thought I'd throw them out there for you guys, give you an update on the on the UH-72 and the TH-67. Okay, our fleet updates. Just some bare bones numbers here. So this is kind of ARI and what we're going through. As a maintainer, here's what we're dealing with on a daily basis. So the TH-67, 162, right? You know, we have a program down there at Rucker to where we pretty much rebuild that aircraft and do a lot of great things and push it out. We've actually got one aircraft that the last one that we will rebuild down there. We're divesting some TH-67s. We've already divested some, and we got a few more coming up in the second quarter. The UH-72s, we got, you know, there's some numbers there, but as I said, by the end of December, we are going to take over that entire contract. The H-64 Delta, we got 65. The PM plans to keep us at 63 or more Block 2s until we turn in the Block 1 aircraft starting in January of 2016. The Echoes, good news story, you know, every maintenance commander wishes you had new aircraft, and because new aircraft, they perform very well for the first few years until they start getting those you know, bumps and bruises on them. Our Echoes are performing very well, so you can see the numbers there. We get a few more, three new Echoes every month there, and then our total number 55 planned by FY20. The legacy fleet there, that's OH-58 Alpha Charlies, you can read those numbers there. Divestment plan to begin in FY17, 20 aircraft. We do have 5 Mi-17s down there that fly quite a bit, and they perform very well. We have our concerns with them as with any other fleet. The 60s, you know, there's a lot of movement. This is obviously a very big fleet. It's our largest fleet we have there right now. and we use those aircraft a lot, and those mics have been performing very well. The medevac, obviously we changed over from the UH-72 to the medevac, is now 60s, and doing a great job there. And then the Deltas, I think we got rid of our last one, or we're getting rid of it this month. And then the 47Fs there, 2024. So I mentioned earlier a little bit about smart maintenance. I didn't know what else to call this slide, so we called it smart maintenance. And the reason why I did that is because there's several things that we can do to help out the big Army, in my opinion. This is just a couple of them. You guys know the deal. The IATM requires that you, during a replacement or during a replace the filters and seal, that you got to drain all the oil or whatever out. Well, obviously we go through those things quite fast down there at Fort Rucker, so we went through this process. We saw a problem. We got the engineers involved. They took a look at it. They saw it was, it was something that happens a lot. So we said, hey, we could sure use some assistance on this. They produced an MEO, sent it up to the engineers, so their bosses, and they got it signed. And so now we're just waiting for it to come out to the IATMs. The good thing about this stuff here is that every brigade has visibility on it. So if you don't know that which MEO is out there, then you can look into the system and see that. But in the right column there, in the benefits, obviously we're all smart people here. We understand that reduces costs, it reduces the man hours, the environmental footprint, it improves the availability and readiness. Two things that we are very concerned about down there at Fort Rucker. It benefits the entire Army, in my opinion. Another smart maintenance thing that I think we do, and I got to thank Colonel Pogue and his team, is our depot field team that we have down there at Fort Rucker. Those guys completed, I think it was 38 aircraft last year. So that team of 5 to 6 or 7, whatever it is, it varies ever so often, that is smart, okay? We don't have to fly aircraft back, or we don't have to truck them back. They're doing that maintenance right there. We can get them back into the fleet faster. That's what we have to do. The demand is down, that we got to get the aircraft back in the fleet fast. Okay, I already kind of hit on this here, and I talked about our op tempo and demand, and so this is just where we want to help out. If there are things out there that you feel like you would like to test, do a beta test on, you might want to talk to Fort Rucker. Now be careful, I mentioned this to General Lundy, and he loves that idea as well, but obviously we can't be everyone's test bed for everything. We have to pick and choose what we can test, use that large fleet for. So if you got something out there, the engineers, they come to us and they say, hey, can you run a 30-day test on this widget and see if it works? We do that. We actually, Olds AE, you guys remember the last version we got that didn't work out so well? So what we've done this time is they've used Fort Rucker as a test bed to make sure that it works. Because guess what? We are migrating 60, 70 aircraft at a time, and we shut down the system. Okay, so that was a big deal last year during Christmas when we put that new version in, and it wasn't able to take the workload that we put on it. So once again, we're a great opportunity to do those type of things, and if we can help out, please let us know. And then finally, I would just say thanks for everyone's support that you guys provide us down there at Fort Rucker. We do appreciate it. We try to maintain the aircraft to the highest standards that we can. It's complicated, when you got issues like the 64, the servos that we're working through right now. Everybody's trying to fix the problem, but we got a great team that works that hard every day. And I just want to say thanks for everybody who works in this field, because we try to tell our people there at Rucker, when you're putting that generator on, or you're putting that tail rotor on, or you're torquing that bolt, whatever you're doing, or you're doing some quality assurance type of inspection, that connects to our national security, in my opinion. And so I try to draw that connection to the employees there, because what they do allows a pilot to be trained. who allows that pilot to get out to his unit and allows that pilot to maybe go and defend the Constitution of the United States. So that's very important, what we do here, and I appreciate everyone's assistance that helps us out and makes Rucker successful down there within AMCOM, CCAD, the entire organizations that work here. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Thank you.